Across the vastness of the galaxy, a silent terror was spreading. It began as whispers in the dark corners of space stations, then escalated into full-scale panic as more and more alien leaders were found dead in their chambers. No alarms had been triggered, no doors had been breached, and yet every morning another high-ranking official was discovered lifeless, their eyes wide with fear, their bodies frozen, as if they had seen something beyond comprehension in their final moments. The assassinations were swift and merciless, and the most terrifying part was that no one knew how they were happening. Advanced security systems detected nothing. Guards posted outside the room swore they had heard no sounds, seen no movement. The dead simply died. Some believed it was an advanced stealth weapon, a technology beyond any known civilization. Others whispered of something far worse, something not of this world. As the body count rose, fear gripped the galaxy. Meetings were held, alliances were questioned, and civilizations that once ruled with confidence now trembled in uncertainty. The most brilliant alien minds worked tirelessly to uncover the truth, yet every investigation led to a dead end. There were no traces of energy signatures, no biological agents, no mechanical intrusions, nothing at all. The assassins, whoever or whatever they were like ghosts, striking with perfect precision and vanishing without a trace. But then, something strange was noticed. Among all the races that had suffered losses, there was one species that had remained completely untouched: humans. While powerful alien rulers fell in the dead of night, every human leader, officer, and ambassador carried on as if nothing was happening. Their colonies, their ships, their command centers all remained untouched. It wasn't luck, nor was it their security. It was something else. First, the galactic community dismissed this as coincidence. But as the deaths continued and not a single human was harmed, the suspicions grew. The question echoed through every major council in the galaxy: why were only humans safe? Some alien factions began to believe that humans were behind the killings, that they had developed a terrifying new weapon that could assassinate without leaving a trace. But others knew this was impossible. Humanity, while formidable in battle, had never demonstrated technology beyond the capabilities of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. If they had such a weapon, they would have used it before. No, the answer had to be something else. Something far more mysterious. The Galactic Security Council assembled its greatest minds to study the phenomenon. Patterns were analyzed, histories were examined, and every possible explanation was considered. But every attempt to make sense of it led to the same chilling realization: there was no logical explanation for why humans were immune. In desperation, alien leaders turned to human scientists, demanding answers. But even the humans were clueless. They had no secret technology, no hidden force protecting them. As far as they knew, they were just as vulnerable as anyone else. And yet, they were not. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed that humans had made a pact with an ancient force, that they had struck a deal with unseen entities in the void. Others believed that humanity itself was unnatural, that they carried something in their very existence that repelled the assassins. Conspiracies grew, tensions rose, and for the first time, humans found themselves at the center of galactic paranoia, not because of their strength, but because of their inexplicable immunity. Some alien factions demanded answers, threatening war if humanity did not reveal its secret. Others, terrified of the unknown, distanced themselves from Earth and its colonies, fearing that whatever protected humans could turn against them. Meanwhile, the assassinations continued. More alien leaders fell, their last moments filled with silent horror. But no matter how many died, humanity remained untouched. And with every passing night, the fear of the unknown grew stronger. The galaxy had always believed that the greatest threats were those that could be seen: armies, fleets, weapons of destruction. But now, they faced something else entirely. Something invisible, something unstoppable. And worst of all, something they could not understand. In the darkness of space, where empires had risen and fallen for millennia, an ancient terror moved unseen. It struck without warning, left no trace, and obeyed no law of science. But whatever it was, it feared only one thing: humans. And no one knew why. The deaths continued. Every night, another powerful alien figure was found lifeless, their face frozen in horror, their body untouched by any visible force. The assassinations had reached a scale where entire governments began to collapse. Fears spread like wildfire, and in the midst of this chaos, one fact stood unshaken: humans were never targeted. Every species, every empire, every ruling body had lost someone, except for humanity. The question haunted the galaxy: why were only humans safe? The Galactic Security Council, the most powerful organization in the known universe, declared a state of emergency. Every major civilization sent its best minds to investigate the phenomenon. Scientists, forensic experts, and intelligence agents worked around the clock, dissecting every crime scene, analyzing every possible clue. Yet no answers came. There were no energy traces, no signs of forced entry, no biological toxins, nothing at all. The assassins were like shadows that passed through walls, struck with perfect precision, and vanished into the void. It was as if something beyond reality itself had reached into the galaxy and decided who would live and who would die. With no physical evidence, investigators turned to data analysis. They studied every detail of the victims' lives: what they ate, where they lived, their genetic makeup. Patterns emerged, but none explained why these individuals were chosen or why humanity remained untouched. Desperation grew, and some factions began suspecting the impossible. Could humans be behind the killings? Could they have developed a weapon so advanced that it left no trace? But even this theory collapsed under scrutiny. Humanity had never possessed such capabilities. Their military technology, while formidable, was not beyond the understanding of other galactic powers. If they had such a weapon, they would have used it in past wars. Yet, no human had ever been harmed, not even the most powerful leaders who should have been prime targets. There was something unnatural about it, something terrifying. The investigations continued, growing more frantic as the death toll rose. Elite strike teams were sent to guard the most vulnerable officials. Advanced AI surveillance monitored every breath, every heartbeat of those in danger. Yet, the assassins remained unstoppable. The victims still died, no matter how much protection surrounded them. And still, not a single human was ever harmed. As paranoia consumed the galaxy, tensions flared. Some alien factions began accusing Earth of hiding the truth. Demands were made for full transparency. Humanity, confused and just as desperate for answers, opened its archives, its scientific records, its entire history to scrutiny. Nothing suspicious was found. They were just as clueless as everyone else. And yet, the assassinations never touched them. One desperate group of researchers took a different approach. If technology and science could not provide answers, then perhaps history could. They combed through ancient records, myths, and legends, searching for any mention of beings that could kill without a trace. What they found sent shivers through the Galactic Council. Long before humanity had ever reached the stars, there had been stories, old tales passed down through generations. Stories of unseen entities that hunted in the night, that preyed on the weak, that could not be stopped by weapons or walls. Myths of shadowy creatures, of nightmares made real. In every civilization's past, there were whispers of such beings. But humans had something different, something unique. Their myths did not just speak of these entities. They spoke of surviving them. While other races told stories of ancient horrors that wiped out entire cities, humanity's oldest legends spoke of people who had faced these nightmares and endured. The creatures had tried to haunt them, had tried to prey upon them, but for some reason, they had failed. Humanity had never been conquered by the unseen forces. Over time, these horrors had disappeared from human history, reduced to mere folklore. But the assassins plaguing the galaxy now bore an eerie resemblance to these forgotten legends. Could it be that whatever was killing alien leaders was something humanity had already encountered long ago? The researchers presented their findings, but they only raised more questions. If humans had survived these assassins in the past, how? Had they developed some unknown defense? A genetic trait? A mental shield? Tests were run on human biology, but nothing unusual was found. They were just as fragile as any other species. And yet, the assassins ignored them completely. Even when a team of researchers tried to set a trap, placing a human leader in a heavily guarded location, ensuring they would be the prime target, the result was the same. The assassins never came. It was as if they feared humans. As the mystery deepened, the galaxy grew more divided. Some saw humanity as the key to survival, a species that held the answer to stopping the assassins. Others saw them as a threat, an anomaly that defied the laws of the universe. Conspiracies flourished, tensions rose, and warships prepared for conflict. But in the end, one terrifying truth remained. Something was killing the rulers of the galaxy, and whatever it was, it refused to touch humanity. The question was no longer just about survival. It was about power. If humans were immune to this terror, then what else were they immune to? And more importantly, if the assassins feared them, what else did? The galaxy was in chaos. Assassinations continued without pause, and no species was safe except for humans. Every major empire had lost leaders, generals, and high-ranking officials. Fear spread like wildfire, and with it came an even more dangerous thought. What if humanity was responsible? Many alien factions refused to believe that humans were innocent. Some thought that humans had developed an advanced stealth technology capable of eliminating targets without leaving a trace. Others whispered that Earth's people had struck a deal with something ancient and powerful, an entity that hunted in the dark and spared only them. But the truth was far more unsettling. Even humanity didn't know why they were immune. Desperate for answers, an extremist alien faction decided to conduct a dangerous experiment. If no human had ever been targeted, then they would force the assassins to break that pattern. They would make the first attempt on a human life. Captain Elias Voss was the perfect target. A decorated war hero, he had fought in many conflicts and earned a reputation as one of humanity's finest military leaders. His name was known across the stars, and his survival would not go unnoticed. The faction hired the deadliest entity in the galaxy, the Shadow Reaper. No one knew what the Shadow Reaper truly was. Some believed it was an ancient force, older than the stars. Others claimed it was not a single being but an army of unseen killers. No matter the truth, one fact remained: it never failed. Every target assigned to it had died, and no security, no technology, no power had ever stopped it. If there was anything in existence that could kill a human, it was the Shadow Reaper. Elias Voss sat in his quarters aboard a deep space military outpost, unaware of the deadly experiment that had begun. His room was secured by the most advanced defense systems humanity had. Motion sensors, biometric scanners, automated sentry guns, all set to detect even the smallest anomaly. Yet, the Shadow Reaper had bypassed every form of security before. It did not need to break through walls or sneak past guards. It was a whisper in the darkness, a shadow that existed in places where no light could reach. And on this night, it came for Elias. The air in his room grew cold, and the galaxy had been living in fear, but fear alone was not enough to stop the killings. Leaders, warriors, and rulers from every species had been found dead without a single wound or sign of struggle. The assassins were invisible, unstoppable, and merciless. Every empire, every faction, every civilization had suffered losses. Every species except humans. No one could explain why. The most advanced investigations had failed to uncover the truth. Humanity had no special technology, no hidden defenses, and no logical reason for their immunity. But facts could not be ignored. The assassins refused to touch them. Even when the greatest killer in the galaxy, the Shadow Reaper, was sent after a human, it had stopped. It had hesitated. It had chosen to retreat. The question now was no longer just why humans were safe, but rather what did they know that no one else did? The Galactic Council had no choice but to turn to the only ones who might have answers. A secret meeting was arranged, deep within neutral space, far from the watchful eyes of any government. Only the highest-ranking officials and the most trusted scientists were invited. And among them sat Elias Voss, the first human to ever survive an attempt by the Shadow Reaper. His presence alone was enough to send shivers through the gathered aliens. He was living proof that something unnatural was happening. The moment he entered the chamber, the silence was heavy, as if unseen forces were watching. Some members of the council still believed that humans had made a secret pact with the assassins. Others thought that humanity held some hidden knowledge that had been lost to time. But Elias knew the truth, and now he was ready to speak. He leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "You all think this is new, that these assassins have only just begun to hunt you. But you're wrong. They've been here for longer than any of us can imagine." The room darkened, not from failing lights, but from the weight of his words. "You call them assassins, but that's not what they are. They are something older, something far beyond our understanding. They have always existed, watching, choosing who is allowed to live and who must die. You only notice them now. Understanding of what they were, but they were there. We called them demons, ghosts, nightmares. We told stories about them, feared them, fought them in ways we didn't understand." He exhaled slowly. "And somehow, we survived them." The revelation sent a shockwave through the chamber. If what he said was true, then humanity's survival had never been luck. It had been earned. The assassins had tested them, tried to claim them as they now claimed others, but for some reason, they had failed. The oldest human myths, dismissed as superstition, might have been memories of real battles. And now, the creatures had returned not to hunt humans, but to hunt everyone else. "What did you do to them?" Ex-Celery ambassador asked, his voice trembling. "How did your kind escape?" Elias met his gaze. "We didn't escape. We fought them. And whatever happened back then, whether it was something we did, something we became, or something they saw in us, it was enough." The council members struggled to accept his words. The very idea that an ancient force had once tried and failed to claim humanity was terrifying. It meant that the assassins were not invincible. It meant that somewhere, buried deep in humanity's past, was the key to stopping them. But it also meant that humans were something unnatural, something even the shadows feared. "Why are they back now?" another voice demanded. "If they failed before, why didn't they just disappear?" Elias's expression darkened. Maybe they never left. Maybe they were just waiting. The room seemed to grow colder at his words. If the assassins had always been there, if they had simply chosen to remain hidden, then the galaxy had never been safe to begin with. They had been allowed to grow, to expand, to believe they were in control until now. One of the researchers, a reptilian scholar named K. Rush, hesitated before asking the question on everyone's mind. "And what about humans now? Are you still immune?" Elias closed his eyes for a moment, considering his answer. When he spoke, his voice was softer, almost distant. "I don't think we're immune. I think we're something else to them. Maybe an enemy, maybe an experiment, or maybe something worse." The silence that followed was suffocating. The council members had wanted answers, but now that they had them, they wished they didn't. If humans were not immune, but were instead seen differently by the assassins, then what did that mean for the future? Would the creatures eventually turn back to humanity? Would they return to finish what they had once failed to do? Or was humanity something the assassins feared not because of what they were, but because of what they could become? As the meeting ended, the representatives left with more questions than answers. The galaxy was no closer to stopping the assassins, but one thing was now certain: humanity was connected to the shadows in a way no one could understand. And as Elias Voss stood alone in the empty chamber, he couldn't shake the feeling that something unseen was still watching him. The truth had been spoken, but some truths were not meant to be revealed. And in the darkness, something stirred. The assassins had heard their secrets spoken aloud, and they were not pleased. The universe had changed. What once seemed certain was now uncertain. The balance of power that had existed for thousands of years had been shattered, not by war, not by politics, but by something far more terrifying: the unseen assassins. They had come from the darkness, striking without warning, eliminating the greatest leaders of the galaxy without a trace. No technology could detect them, no weapon could stop them, and no empire had been able to defend against them. Every species suffered except humanity. The assassins refused to touch them. No one knew why. Some believed humans had a hidden weapon. Others thought they had made a secret deal with the killers. The truth was far more disturbing. Even the assassins feared them. The Galactic Council had tried to deny it, to pretend that humanity's immunity was just a coincidence. But after Elias Voss survived an assassination attempt from the deadliest entity in existence, they could not ignore it anymore. The question now was no longer about survival. It was about control. If humans were untouchable, then they had the power to reshape the galaxy. And the other species had no choice but to acknowledge it. The first sign of change came when the scared Dominion, once the most feared military power in the galaxy, publicly requested an alliance with Earth. They had lost 6 warlords to the assassins. Their fleets were leaderless. Their enemies saw weakness. They needed protection, and the only ones who could give it were the humans. Other empires followed. Treaties were rewritten. Borders shifted. The Galactic Council was forced to accept a new reality. Humanity was now the most important species in the galaxy. But not everyone accepted this change. In the shadows, a resistance grew. Some factions refused to believe that humans were truly innocent. They saw them as a threat, a species that had been chosen by the assassins for a reason no one could understand. The Drakari Syndicate, known for their ruthless tactics, formed a secret alliance to uncover the truth. They captured human prisoners, experimented on them, tried to find what made them different. But no matter what they did, they found nothing, no genetic advantage, no hidden technology, nothing that explained why the assassins would not harm them. Desperation turned into fear. If there was no logical explanation, then the truth was something worse, something beyond understanding. Elias Voss watched as the galaxy changed around him. He had never wanted power, but power had been forced upon him. He became the unofficial leader of Earth's new role in the galaxy. The other species looked to him for guidance, protection, and most importantly, answers. But he had none. He only knew what he had felt when the assassin had come for him. A presence so ancient, so overwhelming, that it had nearly crushed him with its very existence. And yet, in that moment, it had turned away. Why? That question haunted him. If humanity was not immune, then what were they? A warning? A mistake? Or something the assassins were waiting for? The answer came sooner than expected. Reports arrived of entire star systems falling silent. No distress signals, no survivors, only empty worlds, abandoned as if the entire population had vanished overnight. The assassins were not just hunting leaders anymore. They were changing their methods. The Galactic Council panicked. Fleets were mobilized. Armies prepared for war against an enemy they could not see. And yet, in the chaos, the assassins still refused to touch humanity. Even as planets burned, even as entire civilizations fell, humans remained untouched. The galaxy was collapsing, and they stood in the eye of the storm, watching as everything around them was destroyed. Then came the message. A transmission, not from any known species, not from any location that could be identified. It was not words, but a feeling, a pulse of something wrong, something beyond language, something that spoke not to the mind, but to the soul. It was ancient, beyond time, beyond understanding. And yet, humanity understood. They did not know how, but they did. The assassins were not just killers. They were judges, and the galaxy had been found unworthy. Elias Voss stood before the Galactic Council, surrounded by leaders who once commanded entire civilizations, but now trembled before a fate they could not escape. "We have 2 choices," he said. "We let them finish what they started, or we show them that we are more than prey." The room was silent. Every species had been brought to its knees, but for the first time, there was a chance, a small, impossible chance to fight back. And the only ones who could lead that fight were the ones who had already survived the judgment of the assassins. The humans. The new galactic balance was clear. Humanity was no longer just another species. They were the deciding force in the greatest battle the universe had ever seen. And as Elias looked out at the stars, he knew one thing for certain: the assassins had made a mistake. Whatever they had feared in humanity before, they were about to see it in full. And this time, it would not be the humans who turned away.